In the farthest corner of northeastern Siberia lies Yakutia, one of the coldest inhabited places on Earth. Winter there is not a season. It is a force. A living, breathing presence that tests everything it touches. Temperatures fall below -50 degrees Celsius. The wind slices through bone. And survival is never guaranteed. In a small wooden cabin at the edge of a frozen forest lived a 75-year-old woman named Nargun. She lived alone. Her children had long ago moved to the city. Her husband had passed many winters before. But Nargun refused to leave her homeland. She knew the land. She understood its silence, and she respected its dangers. Every day was a ritual of survival, chopping frozen wood, melting ice for water, tending to her small food supply. The forest around her cabin stretched endlessly, white and merciless. One evening, as the sky turned a pale grey and a violent blizzard began to swallow the trees, Nargun wrapped herself in fur and began the long walk home from checking her trap lines. The wind howled. Snow lashed against her face. Then she heard it. A sound that did not belong. Not the whistle of wind. Not the crack of ice. It was faint, fragile, desperate. She stopped. Listened again. There, beneath the roar of the storm, a soft cry. Against all logic, she followed it. Each step through the snow grew harder as the blizzard intensified. The sound led her deeper into the forest until she reached a narrow clearing. And there she saw it, a frozen pit, hidden beneath drifting snow. She moved closer carefully and looked down. At the bottom, struggling against the ice-covered walls, was a Snow Leopard cub. Small, weak, terrified. Its pale, spotted fur was crusted with frost. One paw was bleeding. It had likely fallen while wandering, or perhaps been separated from its mother during the storm. Snow leopards are rare, elusive, almost mythical in these lands. And this cub was dying. Nargun stood there for a long moment. She knew the risks. A cub meant a mother nearby. And a mother snow leopard would not forgive. But she also knew something else. If she walked away, the cub would not survive the night. So she tied a rope around a nearby birch tree and lowered herself carefully into the pit. The ice walls were slick. The wind screamed above her. The cub tried to hiss, but it had no strength left. "It's all right," she whispered softly. Her hands, rough from decades of winter, gently wrapped the trembling animal inside her fur coat. Climbing out was harder. Twice she slipped. Once she nearly fell back in. But somehow, through strength born of a lifetime of survival, she pulled herself and the cub out of the frozen trap. The journey back to her cabin felt endless. The blizzard erased her footprints, as if the forest wanted to swallow them both. By the time she reached her door, night had fallen. Inside the small cabin, a fire still glowed faintly in the iron stove. She laid the cub near the warmth. Its breathing was shallow. She cleaned its wounded paw with melted snow water, wrapped it in cloth, fed it small pieces of dried fish soaked to soften them. All night she stayed awake, feeding the fire, checking its breathing. Outside, the storm raged. Inside, two lives fought to endure. Morning came quietly. The blizzard had passed, and the cub was still alive. Over the next few days, Nargun became something she never expected to be, a guardian to a wild predator. The cub grew stronger. It began to stand. It explored the cabin clumsily, knocking over small wooden tools. Its bright grey eyes followed her everywhere. But Nargun knew this was temporary. A snow leopard does not belong in a cabin. It belongs to the mountains. Weeks passed. The cub healed. Its strength returned. And one afternoon, Nurgun noticed something different. Silence outside. Not the peaceful silence of winter, but a watchful one. She stepped outside carefully. There, at the edge of the tree line, stood a shadow. Large, still, powerful. A full-grown snow leopard. The mother. Her thick tail moved slowly. Her eyes locked onto the cabin. Nurgun's heart pounded. The cub inside sensed it too. It rushed toward the door, letting out a sharp cry, stronger now. The mother answered with a deep, low call. Not a roar. A recognition. Nurgun understood. It was time. She opened the door. The cub hesitated only for a second before bounding into the snow. Halfway across the clearing, it turned back, just for a moment. Their eyes met. Then it ran to its mother. The two touched noses briefly, a silent reunion, before disappearing together into the endless white forest. Nurgun stood there long after they were gone. The wind moved gently across the snow. The forest returned to stillness. In a land ruled by ice and instinct, compassion had left its mark. She returned to her cabin alone once more. But something had changed. Out there, somewhere beyond the frozen trees, walked a snow leopard that had survived because she chose not to look away. And perhaps, in the deep silence of Siberia, that mattered more than anyone would ever know. Because even in the coldest places on Earth, warmth can exist. And sometimes, survival is not just about enduring winter. It is about choosing kindness when the storm is at its worst.